Auburn fans, it's easy to be frustrated, but we've got to listen to the future players in this program.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Happy Charlie Tuesday to all who celebrate. We're joined by Auburn message board legend, the Kyle Rush, also known as Charlie 5, the man over at the barn, auburn.com. What do the final few weeks look like for Auburn this season? We'll tackle that, as well as more recruits that could be committing soon to the Auburn Tigers. But I want to start things off with a conversation that you had with Blake Woodby on your show, the Top Button Podcast. You can find it at the Barn Auburn's YouTube page. But I mean, it's pretty unanimous, the messaging that you're hearing from not only the true freshmen and true sophomores on Auburn's roster currently, but the guys who are coming in. Just the overall excitement internally about the future. And I understand being frustrated, and Saturday was a brutal loss. I'm not trying to sugarcoat it. But is what happened on Saturday against Vandy changing or impacting the future of Auburn football? And you hear guys like Woodby, and I want you to kind of jump into what stood out to you about talking to them. But to me, all of these kids seem super energized to come and help build Auburn back to what it once was.
The coolest, first of all, it's insane, the chasm between the on-field performance versus off the field performance. It's
wild.
It's unreal. Like, I've never seen anything like this. And this is the coolest thing about Blake Woodby. So I'd reached out to him several weeks back. He just couldn't make it work. And I just decided, it's probably not gonna work. He reached out to me within 30 minutes of the game being over. Like, essentially, like, I feel like this, the fans need to hear this from me. And that just blew me away. He initiated the whole thing, and to hear him rave about the culture that they're building and rave about DJ Durkin and straight up said, the game doesn't matter. What happened today doesn't matter. They're building something. They're bought in. He's working on trying to get guys that play the same position as him, that are higher rated than him, that would essentially be competing with him for, playing time. Like, it's really, and he's not the only one after the game. And people say, oh, what do you expect them to say? I expect them, if there's problems, to say, I'm not taking interviews, or I'm not, I'm not talking about it. I'm surely not going to, if I'm wavering at all, I'm surely not going to put any effort to reach out to Auburn voices and want to talk about Auburn on their show. Like, it's really remarkable what they've been able to do. And I think if you don't have this happening off the field, the results on the field will be creating a whole lot more heat and chaos.
And that's the thing. Everybody wants to compare the stat about Hugh Freeze's record versus Brian Harson's record. And it's like, this is the difference.
Yeah.
This is the difference. And it's weird that nobody really wants to tie those things together, but whatever. Like, the on-field production is a problem. Nobody is saying that it's not. But Brian Harsin got let go because there was no hope for the future. And I think you can still look at what Hugh Freeze has done and say there is hope for the future. I mean, look at what the freshmen did on defense on Saturday. Incredible. Yeah. Incredible. I mean, 16 and 18 were always around the football. You saw, Amaris was only on the field for like 6 plays, but it seemed like every time he was there, he was making a stop or impacting the play. There is hope for the future for Auburn football. It's just the offense is systematically broken, and they've got to fix it. And you fix that through coaching, and you fix that through personnel. And I think you're going to see both of those things happen this offseason. And if you don't, I'm fully okay with folks asking questions.
Sure. So I got someone asked me, and I think they were trying to pin me against the wall. Hey, you were sort of anti Brian Harsin towards the middle of that second year, and you didn't give him the same time that you gave Hugh. And just to straight up, like if everybody remembers, I was just as pro Harsin as I was Freeze until that first recruiting cycle and that first portal cycle ended. And then you started seeing signs of, I'm not doing the things I need to be doing off the field. I'm not visiting schools I need to be visiting. I'm not going to awards banquets that coaches had attended for years and years and years. Like that's whenever I got off the bus, because I've always said results matter, but they don't matter as much early on if you're doing the right things off the field. Now, the results this year have been awful.
Terrible.
The offense has been putrid. You can say I take that back. The results have been putrid. There's been times where the offense has shown the ability to be explosive, and you just, for whatever reason, these last couple of weeks, it's kind of tapered off, and you've been playing more safe.
And statistically, it has been explosive. They just can't score points, which is a problem.
That's
right?
a huge.
We're not trying to sweep this under the rug or anything. It's been bad. It's difficult to label because it's so strange.
It's like, so strange.
I saw somebody, I don't know if it was a tweet or in Discord or what, but somebody said like Auburn has made losing an art form this year because it's so crazy.
It's different. It's almost different every game.
It's insane. Right.
Like just think about this game. Okay. Obviously you're struggling on offense. You got a ton of time left. You get Vanderbilt, you stop Vanderbilt again after a egregious non-offensive pass interference call where Jay Crawford got thrown to the ground. You settle for a field goal. If they make the field goal, a touchdown wins the game. And you get a leveraging penalty that how many of those you think are called a year? Less than 10? I would say probably less than 10.
Yeah.
in Power 5 football.
I mean, the mistake was pretty egregious, to be fair. It's like you're coached to not do that. But yeah, to your point, sure.
Yeah, it's just a crazy penalty that nobody, like, rarely ever gets called. And he 100% was guilty of it. So
yeah, you can't jump. And Hugh defending him after the game, like, I don't know if that's the hill that you want to die on, but that's fine. That's fine.
But yeah, it's crazy. But you can think that you can. It's totally fair to say that the product on the field this year is unacceptable. It's awful, but I kind of want to see this thing through because the young players believe in it. So the vision seems to be there for them. There's something that they're buying into. Maybe you can, now that you have a little bit more organization off the field for the portal, you can get the pieces to kind of fit in with these younger, very, very talented guys, and then sort of, make some noise moving forward. It's just, I think both of those points of view are okay. I think that's totally fine.
Yeah, you could be unhappy with how this season has gone, but still see the foundation that is being laid. Now, you do need to change some things this offseason, whether it's who's calling plays, whether it's offensive staff, whether it's personnel. You've got to change something, or we're just being silly at this point. And surely that'll happen. If not, I think we'll be concerned. But until we just, I don't know. I think it's okay to assume that they're going to make changes this offseason. And they're probably going to have to show some of the current roster that changes are being made in order to keep some people.
I totally agree. I totally agree. 1,000%. You got to sell it to that's part of it now. You got to sell it to your own roster and say, hey, look, this is it's kind of goes to back where I say there's a difference between the definition of excuse and reason. They're completely different. And excuse is, it's not my fault. There's nothing I could do about it. Yeah. Whereas reason is, this is what happened and this is what I'm doing to fix it. Mm-hmm. There can be reasons as to why things went south, but what are you going to do to fix it? And that's what he's going to have to sell to these kids, to say, this is what I'm doing to fix it. This is not going to happen again.
Yep. That's right. That's right. Speaking of the future, Auburn has been tied and linked to another very talented defensive player. We'll tell you more about that in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Roy. Roy stands for Return on You. So far this season, Roy has pulled over $20,000 to support players. Micro deposits lead to massive change. With the Roy app, you can directly support the athletes you love, ensuring that all funds go to the specific player that you choose. Let's pick our Roy player of the week. Jaron Thompson comes to mind. He was electric. DeMarcus Riddick was all over the field. Where do you want to go with the Roy player of the week? What do you think?
I want to give Amaris Williams some love, man. His snap counts picking up, but even the few opportunities he gets, he's making tackles for losses. So I want Amaris Williams to be the Roy player of the week.
All right, so Amaris Williams, Roy's going to pitch in $100, and hey, you should join them in doing that. Even $10 makes a difference. So download the Roy app and join the NIL game with no subscription and fees. Be sure to check out Roy on Instagram, Facebook, and X at Roy_return on you for more info. Roy, support the players and change the game. Today's show also brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. According to our friends at FanDuel, look, basketball starts tomorrow. Basketball starts tomorrow, and the Tigers have the second best odds in the conference to win the SEC. Good bet. Good bet.
Value's there.
The value is there.
Plus 250, something like that?
Yeah, I think that's right. Yep, that's right. That's right. So head over to FanDuel right now. New customers can bet $5. You get $150 in bonus bets if you win. So that's over at FanDuel.com. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. New commit kind of popping up over the last few weeks. Joseph Mbachu, the defensive lineman out of Grayson High School, which is a hotbed of talent for sure. But former Florida commit, decommits, all the crystal balls and RPMs flowing Auburn's way. He was on campus this past weekend, and this is another defensive front seven player, defensive lineman who, I mean, Auburn is loading up on this class, and it's super, super fun to see.
Yeah, and it again it goes to show you the difference, that chasm. I'm going to stick with that word. I like that word. That chasm between the performance off the field and then the performance on the field. They just keep finding these guys, and this is a guy that he's not committed yet. But he had obviously got a lot of predictions over the weekend. He did say he's going to take a little bit of time, but somebody that you could easily add to the class. And once again, you'd have 3 of the top 100 players in the country or defensive linemen that are committed to you, and you could add another top 250 guy that's a defensive lineman. That's how you win in the SEC, as you build the trenches. And then and we're using this as an example to show how different it is, to like the on-field results aren't really costing Auburn a lot right now, which is crazy. Then you got 2 twin brothers. I think it's Aiden and Andrew Harris from Matthews, North Carolina. Aiden is the #1 interior defensive lineman for 2026, and his brother is Andrew is a 4-star edge, and they're both saying they love Auburn, and there's people think that they could pull the trigger as soon as maybe even this week. And that think, Auburn's made a really big impact. So it's just wild, man. It's crazy to see. You had Blake Woodby saying they're still going hard after Naeem Alford. He was here. Naeem Alford said, game doesn't matter. It's all about the rebuild. Mm-hmm. Quote unquote, out of his mouth. Like stuff like that. It's just, there's still an opportunity to close strong.
To use your word, you said the chasm is wide between on-field production and off-field production. Mm-hmm. I mean, is that concerning, or since we're looking at it in a short term? I mean, I don't think this could happen next year, right? Like, I don't think Auburn can go 4-8 next year, and you keep this recruiting up. Is it okay because we're all kind of looking at this as a short-term thing?
That's the only way it can be okay. You know what I mean? Like,
you would think,
you can't look at the short term and say it's okay, because it's not. It's like not. 3-6 is not okay. You have to be looking at what happens moving forward to be okay with, not to be okay with it, but to be willing to see it through, I guess.
Sure.
And I think that's where I just think that's where a lot of people are because of how good it's going as far as this rebuild goes. But because here's another thing, like, let's say next year doesn't work out, like, but you give it another year, you're loaded with, you got a pretty loaded roster. And if you make the right, if something were to go south and you have to make a change and you make the right hire, you could salvage a lot and you sort of kickstart. I don't even want to talk about that yet, but like you sort of kickstart the next regime. But still, I think that's the biggest reason why people want to see it through is because of what's been going on off the field.
Yeah. I mean, it gives you hope, gives you something to point at. There are arguments against this, right? And my biggest concern is from a the whole argument is, well, Auburn's going to have more talent than the teams that they play against. But I think that's been the case in some of these games that you've lost anyway, where you've been more talented than some of these teams that you've lost to. So,
but you're untalented at you may be not as talented in some very key positions as you can't be untalented. You can't be under talented in, I guess, if that makes sense. So,
are you referring to quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, you have to refer to it. I mean, unfortunately, okay. I hate banging on. I hate like continuing to pile on, but like it's blatantly obvious you're handicapped, and it's kind of affecting everything. And you could say, oh, you have to adapt your personnel, and maybe that's the case. And I think there's probably a lot of coaches that can, but for whatever reason, it's not working. And I always say, if you could point to like a long track record of the same things happening, then I would say you got an issue. But again, you've heard multiple players, you've heard multiple former coaches. You heard Bo Wallace just went on Twitter and what was funny is he was banging on Hugh Freeze earlier in the season. He went on Twitter this past weekend and said, you can throw for 300 yards in this offense off of run plays. Like in other words, like this is crazy that this is happening. Like it's like people that have been around it can't like figure out why this is happening.
Yeah, it's the whole thing's been fluky, but when it's fluky and you lose, you find like 8 different ways to lose over the course of the season. It's like it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter,
I caught a cramp. Hold on. Sorry,
are you cramping right now? You all right?
I was cramping. I need
stand
some
up if you need
electrolyte.
to. In just a second, let's jump into the final few weeks. All right, what exactly does Auburn need to do over these final 4 weeks of the season? That's coming up right here. You all right?
I'm good.
Unlocked on Auburn.
Legit cramped.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Z-Biotics. Maybe this would help.
I may need this.
Yeah, it's not going to hurt. It's not going to hurt. Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists, really smart people, to tackle the rough mornings after drinking. So, yeah, so drink this thing. First beverage of the evening. Drink responsibly, and you're going to feel great the next morning. Does it help your cramp situation right now? Probably not. But I don't think it would hurt it. That's for sure. So I want to encourage you to head over to zbiotics.com/LockedOnCollege to learn more. And you also can get 15% off your first order when you use promo code LockedOnCollege, all one word, LockedOnCollege at checkout. Z-Biotics is backed with a 100% money back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund you the money. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/LockedOnCollege. Use code LockedOnCollege at checkout for 15% off. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends at Alumni Hall. Kyle, ask me where I got this hat. Ask me.
Hey, bud, where'd you get that hat?
I got it at Alumni Hall. You like it?
I love it.
You like it? Here's the crazy thing about Alumni Hall. They had this hat and a million other hats.
So many hats. They have a whole wall. The whole back side of the store is hats.
Yep. But I also could have gotten like an Auburn t-shirt of any sport. I could have gotten an Auburn collared shirt, a polo, a
button it up,
down, a vest if you wanted to, a little sweater vest action, a little throwback.
I love a vest.
Yeah, sure. It's got stuff for men, women, kids, dogs, stuff for your walls, your tailgate, all at Alumni Hall. And I know what you're thinking. Well, what if I don't live close to Alumni Hall. They've got 3 great physical locations: Auburn, Opelika, and Huntsville. What if I live too far away?
You're out of luck, right?
No.
Oh,
you're not out of luck.
Yes.
Just head over to alumnihall.com and you can buy stuff there.
That dadgum internet saves the day.
Wow. Alumnihall.com. Thank you so much to Alumni Hall for sponsoring today's show. Final few moments of today's. You straighten your leg out? You straighten out the cramp? You okay?
Yeah, I'm good. Go. Okay. Go fast. I'm kidding.
All right. So Auburn heads into the bye week, and then they've got a very winnable game against ULM. And then after that, I just have no clue. And maybe I shouldn't be confident against ULM. I don't know. In your mind,
oh man,
like what's the goal outside of like winning as many games as possible? Like what do you want to see from this team? Like what can make us feel better outside of winning going into the offseason in your mind?
Obviously, you need to win against Louisiana, ULM.
Outside of winning, totally.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, competent offense. I think that's somehow, some way, some semblance of change to where you're moving in the right direction, whether that means personnel change, going back to throwing the ball around, doing whatever you got to do, but showing some semblance of competence on offense, I think would go a long way, even in some losses. Get into some, score some points for a game, like score more than 1 touchdown. That might be something that would go a long way. Especially against like a Louisiana Monroe, going to Texas A&M when they have a very physical,
or more than 1 touchdown.
Yeah, they have a very physical defensive front. They're very talented. If you can show that you can, move the ball on them and put yourself in a position to, challenge. Same thing with Alabama. I think that would go a long way. And you don't necessarily have to win them, because like what good, unless you win all of them, like what good does it really do you at this point in time?
Yeah. So, do you feel if you win one of those last 2 and you go 5-7, I still think you feel better because it's like, okay, we beat a good team. You beat a ranked team. It's been forever since we've beaten a ranked team. Like that would feel good.
Sure.
But yeah. I mean, I'm curious to see how
you feel good. Do you feel good if you win like 10-7 or like some or 12 to?
Yeah, let's just freaking win a game that matters. Yeah.
Maybe so. Sure.
I don't want to beat ULM 10-7. That feels gross.
Correct.
That feels gross. But if you're like, if you were offered a 10-7 victory over A&M or Bama, you would take that without thinking. Yes.
I would take it. 100%. I just don't know how I still feel like you got to make more strides on the offensive side of the ball. Like
I don't think that can happen.
You're probably right.
In a short amount of time, unless it's all quarterback, which I don't think it is. I don't think it's all quarterback. But if it is all quarterback and you make a change and Hank, cleans up the picks or whatever, I don't think that's it. I think there's something systematically not being taught or conveyed to the personnel. And that goes to O-linemen. I think it goes to quarterbacks. I think it goes to pass catchers. I think it's everybody involved. I think it's just systematically, there's a disconnect. And I don't think you can fix that over a bye week. And I don't think you can fix that in season. You gotta make some changes in the offseason, whether it's coaching staff, whether it's scheme, how you call plays, what you're looking at. There's just a lot to fix. It's like you almost just got to start over, and you can't do that at this point.
I mean, you're correct there. I don't know what you do either, and I think obviously there is a disconnect there too. Whether it's so and so ran the wrong route, like why in week 9 is that happening, or so and so missed a protection, like there is something missing here, and I don't know what it is, and I'm just, you can't not fix it. And I don't know how again, it's such a short period of time. I don't know how you fix it. I still would love to see, it would make me feel a lot better to see more progress on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah. I don't know if we're going to get that, which is a bummer. I hope we do. But it's like, there's going to be so much change, I hope this offseason, where like, does the progress even actually matter?
That's
not really a fun conversation, but I think it's valid.
I mean, you can't not have chance. Like you can't. I mean, I'm not going to speculate.
There's no way you can go 3-9 or 4-8 with the offense that you had and not make changes to the offensive side of the ball. And I'm not saying it's the OC. I'm not saying it's any specific coach, but you don't keep entire offensive staffs together when you have a good season.
It's tough.
Let alone a bad one. Like, it's just the nature of the business. So there is going to be change. There has to be.
Oh,
even like politically, like if you're Hugh Freeze and it's like, I need to like at least make it look like I'm trying to change something. Even if you firmly believe in what the system you have in place is, I think you still got to do something. So I don't know what exactly that looks like. I don't know if it's like you make let a few guys leave and you move Nicks to co-OC and running backs and you bring in another OC that can help you call plays and game plan. I don't know. I have no clue, but you've got to do something.
Sure. And it, not only staff personnel, but probably, more than likely player personnel too, whether it be at quarterback, offensive line, whatever it is. It's just really hard to imagine that you're going to run everything back. Remember Harsin did his big, that was what ended me was his big, we're going to run it back. We got all the offensive linemen. We convinced every single one of them to come back. And it's like,
well, that was kind of the problem.
That was kind of the issue.
You can say what you want about the staff, but like in the portal and on the recruiting trail, like when there's an issue on the roster, like at least they've gone after the pieces in an attempt to fix it. Did Percy Lewis pan out? No. But everybody was like, yes, this makes sense. You need a left tackle. This is one of the best ones in the portal. Like, makes sense to go get them.
And you wanted other ones. And your strategy and everything that you put in place to get those guys didn't work out. So what did you do? You changed that part of it so that the next go around, you're more prepared to take advantage of those situations. That's one thing. Like, I understand. This is another thing, and I don't want to go too long here, but there is an aspect of learning on the job in today's football that every coach is having to go through.
Sure.
And some are handling it better than others. And I would say Hugh's probably not handling it as well as he probably as some of his colleagues. But one thing I do see him doing is he makes quick adjustments as far as like just take the Will Redmond situation and Kenyatta Watson. He makes quick, he does make quick adjustments, and it kind of goes back to that reason versus excuse thing. This is what happened. It's my fault. This is how I'm fixing it. So that's one thing that I would give him props on. And I'm hoping that it pays off and you're ready to add those pieces in December.
Yeah, I agree with all that. So does it turn into more wins next year? That's the big question. I think it will.
It better.
But if not, man, that's going to stink if it doesn't. It's going to stink if it doesn't in multiple ways. Happy Auburn basketball season. We are so close. We are so close.
Tomorrow, baby. Let's go.
Tomorrow. How can people check out everything you've got going on?
Absolutely. You can subscribe to thebarnauburn.com. Still only $1 for the first month. A lot of good conversation, information, nuggets galore, recruiting updates, basketball updates, team updates. We've even got some portal talk as well, more speculation than anything right now. But it's definitely something you got to be prepared for. And hey, portal season's right around the corner. Signing day's right around the corner. You definitely want to make sure you're up to date. So check us out at thebarnauburn.com. And then you can follow me on Twitter, _Charlie_5. And you can find the Top Button Podcast everywhere we get a podcast and on our YouTube channel, The Barn Auburn. You can catch Zach there too, Zach and Brad.
Yep. Brad Law and we do a show called Village Vice on there, so be sure to check that out as well. thebarnauburn.com. Please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.